So athletes with diabetes really do need to plan ahead for training and competition. The two most important decisions they're making are thinking about insulin adjustment ahead of time and nutrition and fueling. Hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia during physical activity generally occur because of insulin levels circulating in the blood either being too high or too low. So ultimately, thinking about adjusting insulin doses ahead of time is important, and fueling using carbohydrates to keep glucose in range are the two factors to work with. So technology is so incredibly important, and it's an asset that's really been growing in the diabetes space. We look at the data, we look at the numbers, and think about using CGM especially to plan ahead, see trending with glucose. Is it going down? Is glucose going up? And then using fueling strategies as much as possible to keep glucose in range. The nutritional needs for athletes with diabetes are really similar, almost the same as for athletes without diabetes. I think athletes with diabetes are super focused and need to be super focused on nutrition as a tool. Really looking at carbohydrate timing and amounts around exercise to keep glucose in range, but also thinking about overall healthy eating in terms of enough proteins, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, all the good stuff that really supplies nutrition. Recovery is so incredibly important to athletes, and for athletes with diabetes, I think being extra focused on recovery is important because glucose really does need to be in range for fuels to be incorporated into the body. Like enough protein needs to go back to muscle building and recovery and repair. Carbohydrates need to be replenished. So if glucose isn't in range during that recovery period, it's going to be harder for all that to happen. So the first misconception we always think about is that athletes and people with diabetes can't eat sugars. And in truth, as athletes, our riders sometimes depend on sugars and those quick-acting carbohydrates to keep their glucose in range, just because they're exercising at such a high level. Other myths are that people with diabetes can't exercise or do things that at a high level, and that's absolutely not true, as our athletes prove. Team Novo Nordisk is committed to showing what's possible with diabetes and informing people about these myths. We, as a team, use a lot of science and data and pay attention to professional guidelines and apply those to people living with diabetes. So heat, altitude, extreme conditions definitely play a role in glucose management. Paying attention to glucose numbers, using the data to show how the athlete is personally responding to those extremes is important. Hydration matters, nutrition matters, acclimatization matters, so all those things make a difference. The same precautions are the ones that our athletes need to pay attention to, understanding that it's maybe a notch more important for them in terms of keeping glucose in range, but again, hydration, nutrition, being in the climate, the environment that they're going to be in for a while, so that they're ready to train and to perform well in that environment. Yes, there are big differences in how glucose would be managed across sports. It's a personalized thing for each athlete, but we tap into energy systems that are in our body for either doing hard, intense exercise or doing more long-term endurance exercise. And the way that glucose responds to each of those is different, so depending on the sport, we would have a different approach. The most important thing is to really have team-based care, so to speak. The team around the team, working together, coaches, the nutrition team, the medical team, all being and the athlete themselves, all working together is so important for success.